Uh, so at Niti Aayog, we are looking at how we can increase technology intervention in education and and make sure that technology is accessible to all. So in this, first we have identified what are the challenges of technology intervention, particularly in the school education. So we have identified four broad challenges. One is the infrastructure challenges. We know that internet is not available at the school level, electricity is not there, digital devices are not there. These are the building blocks to enable technology, and this is one of the challenges we have identified. The second one which we have identified is the human resource challenges, both from the teacher point of view and from the implementation point of view. uh, we need to improve the digital literacy of the teachers. We need to also enhance the knowledge of the school administration on the technology and the technology platform. And even from the administration, we want to really demonstrate the capability of the technology and how that can be useful. The third challenge which we have identified is the systematic challenges. And here one is that we need to make sure that the content is available in the vernacular languages. Uh, we a lot of pilots related to technology has been done, but the scaling is the issue. We are not able to scale those pilot projects. And then the fourth challenge is the socio-economic challenges, where we want to educate both the parents and the teachers to uh, use technology as a tool, right? We, there's a lot of research where we have seen that the girl childs are not given access to digital devices, right? We need to also ensure that the devices are being used for the right purpose. So these are the four challenges which we have identified. And then we did a so this is the ecosystem, right? So this is the ecosystem for the in the edtech. I will say this because we all are aware of this. We have done the research about how technology has been adopted across the world. Right? If we look at China, they had a edtech policy in two parts. In first part, they focus on building the infrastructure, and they spend 10 years to just make sure that the internet and the digital devices are available in the school. Uh, that was the focus on that. And then they focus on the content and other things. Similarly, if we look at Israel, they start with the 5 years plan where they want to make sure that all the school are having computers, right? At the same time, the teachers are having the ICT education. So they were looking at how they can bring the digital technology to the school, as well as they wanted to focus on digital literacy. And they are using the emerging technologies like cloud to enable the access. Similarly, Kenya, which we found very, very interesting because we have the similar challenges where they have used the low tech intervention, and they have used the support of the NGOs and the startup to enable access. And this is something we will be talking in the subsequent slides also. Now, overall objective, what is the objective of using technology? So we want to focus on only on two objectives. The first objective is how can we improve access to quality education by using technology. And the second objective is that how can we improve learning outcomes. We want to focus on these two, and all the recommendations which we have are for these two objectives. And we are using the guiding principle of NEP 2020. Let me come to the recommendations. So we have 5 recommendations, and we are happy to debate those. We are happy to add more, but we were able to finalize these 5 thematic areas. I will quickly go through all of these 5 thematic areas one by one. So the first recommendation is how can we use technology to increase the teacher capacity? And based on the research we have done, Tata Trust is doing a lot of work here. Even global universities are doing a lot of work here. This is a very good intervention where the technology is not directed to the student, but technology is being used to increase the teacher capacity to help teachers enhance their course, enhance their learning, enhance their understanding, and this can scale easily, right? We know that if teacher has to attend a training, they need to skip their day, they need to travel for long hours, and which is not viable for all the teachers. Now, with technology, the access to education is on the fingertips, right? So, this is one intervention which we feel, uh, and technology with adults is still manageable than technology with children. So this is one intervention where we feel that technology can be a game changer, and we can use this technology as a tool to enhance the teacher's skills in the emerging area of blockchain, AI, AR, VR, IoT. This way, we will be able to enhance their knowledge, and we can reach massive scale using technology. And a few of the things we want to highlight here, that it needs to be a top-down approach. We need to align with the state school administration, the headmaster, the headmistress align. They should be also part of the cohort, and then we should educate teachers. If the ecosystem is there, then this program would be scalable, and and there should be a motivation. So how can we create a mechanism of giving them certificate, giving them digital badges when they are completing courses? All right, so we need to create some, and if we can link to their pay also, that nothing like that, but we need to understand how that will be viable. But we should create some motivations factors for teachers to retrain themselves. Uh, the second one, which we want to talk about, and Vipin sir has also mentioned, is that blended learning, where where it is the best of offline world and the online world. And there can be various different models. Here it can be that we have some good content played in the class, along with there's a teacher in the class to address all the doubts. Or they can be students are having offline classes, but they are giving exams online, so that their interaction is being recorded, and based on their performance in the class, in the exam, recommendations are given to them, right? So there are multiple models in the blended learning space, and this is something which is viable, feasible, and desirable. Uh, the cost to implement this is not very, very high. We need to have one projector in each classroom, and we need to focus on the content. Once the content is there, it can be replicated everywhere. And we can have the best world-class content which will be played digitally, and there will be teacher in the class to address all the doubts. And this can make the classroom environment very, very interesting, right? We can play some videos to ensure that students are motivated. We can use different mechanisms to explain them some tough subjects, right? So we can make class very, very interesting if we can use the online content, use some good creative videos, and we can even have some guest lectures from the industry experts to really motivate them. I remember my school days, the college days, when we used to have some guest lectures from the expert. That day we used to have 100% attendance. We came to the class just to attend that session. So with this, we can make a classroom very, very interesting. The third one is how we can use technology and enable personalized learning. This is the high-tech intervention, and uh, this is something we would have to really think how this get implemented on the ground. Sir, Vipin sir has suggested few good solutions here. At the same time, this will make this is essential in India because it will help us to improve the learning outcomes, because we know that it is not one size fit all, and there are different ways of student to learn, and they have the different cycles also, right? Somebody different approaches. Somebody like story learns through stories, somebody learns through games, somebody learns through the traditional method, and uh, this with personalized learning this can happen. So one of the recommendation here is that how can we enable personalized learning within the Diksha platform. uh, we have some open source tools which can get integrated to that platform and enable personalized learning. And then how can the student performance in the exam is captured digitally so that recommendation can be given to them on the courses they have to attend and their weak areas, the area of improvement. So if we can focus on this and try to see how this can implemented for the different learning styles of the student, it can be a game changer. The fourth one is about how can we use low tech intervention? And this was also highlighted in NEP 2020 that for early childhood care and education, the parents and the guardian needs to play a very important role. So here we don't want to focus on the students. We want to focus on the guardians and the parents. They will be using technology. They will be getting IVR's call. They would be getting WhatsApp messages, right? And then they will be, and then they will be using that to guide their children. Now, this way we have done some research. We have those education not-for-profit organization who is working in Delhi and UP, and uh, the impact is very, very good with these interventions. The good thing is that these are easy to implement, low cost intervention, but the impact is very, very high. If you look at the change in the standard deviation, it is very, very high, and also in line with the NEP principles. The final intervention is also one something which was mentioned in NEP, that how can we have clusters of schools? We will have all the schools in one locality, and we will create a cluster, and common resources can be used across. With technology, instead of having physical clusters, how can we have virtual clusters? That was our thought process here. And something and how we can use technology for career counseling, for adult education, sex education, uh, health education, right? It is very, very difficult for any school to afford a career counselor, full-time career counselor. Now, if we want to use that on a per class basis using technology, the career counselor doesn't need to travel to school. They can connect with the student using technology. And this has been proven abroad globally. There are many case studies where in Colombia where they have used technology for sex education, and they have seen a very, very positive impact. So here the thought process was that instead of focusing on physical clusters, let's use technology to build virtual clusters of school and use the common resources which are very, very difficult for one school to afford. Then we can use them across multiple schools so that these are Bibles. So these are the five main broad themes which we have identified, which are very, very something which can be implemented on the ground in the current environment, and something which is viable, desirable, and feasible. That was the objective, and all these five will help us improve access to education and will improve our learning outcomes. With that, I will end. Thank you again for giving me this opportunity. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Saurabh.
One area, one school across the country, across the world. I think what is coming out lovely is, as a nation, as a community, there are lots of problem solvers. The curriculum is coming up on, especially on the emerging technologies, coming up to address some of those. Whether it is through capstone projects or challenges or hackathons, students are learning. Whether it is through 20 minutes nuggets on WhatsApp content, students are still learning. They still want to aspire to come and become one of the first entry-level job aspirants, or they want to apply for some of those jobs in maybe a Microsoft, Intel, or an IBM, or any other company today. and which is a great aspiration as well as inspiration right from the focus which NEP talks about. It talks about a lot of innovation, getting all that mindset and a culture of problem solving. I think as a nation, as an organization, CBSE has always really brought that to us as an example in the country, whether it was in the introduction of artificial intelligence or even in future introduction of other technologies. So I would say, Dr. Shah, if yes, that's a big norm. We are definitely going to focus on high school innovation to workforce. That journey has to be extremely, extremely curated in the digital world. Uh, and of course, uh, with all this learning, for whether it's for the students or teachers, and of course, NEP puts that big focus of 50 hours of learning. But finally, we are talking of skilling or upskilling for the youth, whether they want to get into a job in a corporate or startup, do an entrepreneurship sort of a startup sort of a model that they need to get into and generate more employment, because that's something that everybody, unless the school, the industry partner, the government puts that on the table, that finally the goal is the learning outcome, and then the learning outcomes lead to this, whether it's job or entrepreneurship. That's something that we all need to really be very mindful about. So industry, to wrap up, industry relevant content, extremely important. I think Saurav from Niti Aayog talked about the importance of scale, whether it is a district level school or a village level entrepreneur level skill center, or any private school in the world. We need to be connected, and through industry relevant workplace skills, whether it's internship, virtual or otherwise, or whatever that may be, workplace skills, so that this whole journey from high school to workplace becomes much easier for students, and not have this life cycle of a job seeker from a student level, maybe be a decade or so, right? So that's something that we need to all address collectively. Dr.